Hi sir, what's your name?
My name's William.
William. William, what we're asking people is just in regards to their education and common sense and what they actually think of the world that they're living in. So, can I ask you what you're studying?
Computer science.
Computer science. So, are you a follower of science then?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I'd say so.
Can I ask you what your definition of science would be? What would you accept as being scientific?
Anything that's based on experiments or some form of facts and rigorous analysis.
So if I was to then, not to put words in your mouth, say, would you base that on substances then? The behaviour of substance, the objective substances in reality?
Not necessarily.
No?
Science can be theoretical, based on nothing but thought. But yeah.
But in order for me to prove something to you being objectively true, you would require me to practically demonstrate, show you the substance, have measurement of form, these types of things?
No, I wouldn't agree with that.
No?
I'd say, science, say, take maths for instance.
Yeah.
I would consider that as a form of science, and things can be proven, just by logic.
Could you give me an example of something that you're talking about?
I don't know if you know who Socrates is.
Yes.
Yeah. So basically, if Socrates had this, proof that, if Socrates is a man and all men are mortal, therefore Socrates is mortal.
Yeah.
Thinking about it through logic like that, we cover some of this stuff in our studies.
But even that's based on an understanding of substance. Like there's a man, there's human beings, you can see the substance.
Yeah, I guess
so it's not really theoretical with a practical application to it.
So there is a difference between a formal science and a natural science, right? And a formal science has assumptions, axioms, and it's a language. Mathematics is a language based on certain assumptions that we make, whereas natural science is the real world around us, right? All the things that we are.
Yeah, there's definitely a key difference there.
Yeah.
I think so.
So for me, that's that when I talk about science, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for practicality. If somebody's making claims to things being objectively true, they have to show me it in a practical form. Would you agree with that? So if I make a claim to you right now, if I say unicorns exist,
right?
What would constitute, how would I prove to you that unicorns were real?
I mean, that's quite far-fetched, so I'd
bring you a unicorn though, right?
Yeah,
exactly. If I could bring you and you could measure it, that it was real, it had form to it was substance-based, you would believe these things.
If I showed you a picture of a unicorn, would you believe me?
Well, of course not. No.
So
that's the difference, if you like.
Okay, I see.
So that would be my next point. Would you accept an image as being something that you would take to prove to you that something was objectively true, or do you think you would need a bit more than just the image?
No, you definitely need something more.
More than the image?
Something, yeah. If you're talking about something as far-fetched as that, then you definitely need more substantial evidence.
Yeah. But where would you draw the line, because if I can produce an image of anything, I mean, would you grade it and how far-fetched it would be, or would you still require the substance in order to accept it being objectively true?
Well, yeah, in that instance, I guess you would need the substance to give someone an actual reason to believe in what you're saying.
Exactly, that's it. So based on these, understandings, then the next point I'm going to ask is the Earth that we live upon.
Right.
Do you believe that it's a ball?
Yes, I do.
You do?
Yeah.
Could I ask you, if I was to ask you, if I was a stranger to you, we never understood the TV, what would you give me to offer me that would prove to me that it was a ball or justify your belief in it being a ball?
I'd probably talk about the horizon, about how if you're out at sea, you can only see so far because, well, I don't know. Anyone.
What's the geometry of the horizon?
Sorry?
The geometry of the horizon. How would you describe it?
Like a very flat, elliptical curve.
So is it flat or elliptical?
Well, it's very close to flat, but it is elliptical. I mean, you can see if you're high enough, you can see the curvature.
How high would you suppose I would need to be to see that?
I mean, you can be at the top of Ben Nevis and see the curvature of the Earth.
And have you done that to see for yourself?
Yeah, multiple times.
Well, me and many other people, we've been higher than that. But we can't measure the curvature anywhere.
That might have something to do with the way your vision works and the atmosphere and the different conditions and how far you can see things and how not. Your eyeballs are little balls. Maybe there's something in there that needs to be factored into the account.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose, but
Have you heard of the question that people are asking now in regards to the shape of the Earth? Have you heard of flat Earth?
yeah, I've heard a lot of people talking about that.
Can I ask you where you heard about the flat Earth?
Reddit.
You read it?
Yeah.
Oh, on Reddit, the actual site,
Yeah,
Reddit?
the website,
okay. Can I ask you what you think of it?
I think it's a little bit silly.
A little bit silly?
Yeah.
Have you investigated it?
I mean, I've watched like a short video on YouTube about it, like some of the main reasons why they think it's Earth. Like, oh, there's no actual basis to prove that it's, you know, a sphere. So why should we just believe this because it's common knowledge? You know, like that sort of thing. And I mean, I definitely think that things in the past that have been assumed to be common, obviously, like hundreds of years ago, we all believed that the Earth was at the center of the universe. You know, based partially on religious beliefs, and you know, from what we could see, that's what we thought. And then obviously it was then disproven, you know, through like experiments and, you know.
Could I ask you to reference something that proves that the Earth is a ball? An experiment, a measurement? Rather than just conjecture and hearsay and assumptions?
I mean, from the top of my head, no, I couldn't.
Do you think that's astonishing?
Not particularly.
No?
It certainly worried me when I went out to look for it and I couldn't find it.
So, Gavin, I don't know if you want to let them know, you know, what
so I studied here. I left Glasgow University with a combined honours degree in maths and physics in 1985. And now, 30 years later, I'm questioning what I've been told very seriously. And there's a number of things that point to obvious contradictions, the main one being the dynamics of fluids. So, you know, I've never seen in my life bendy water. You know, it doesn't shape that way, it doesn't conform to the exterior of balls, right? I couldn't possibly reproduce it anywhere here on Earth, so if they're telling me that we're mostly covered in water, then I would have to assume that they mean bendy water, and then I would have to go and look for it and I wouldn't find any. So for me that's an obvious contradiction, and it seems to me that all I was brought up on was also pictures of space and, you know, imagery, unicorns on paper, that I can't find. So, you know, I would have to question my belief system and say, wait a minute, I've made a lot of, you know, immediate jumps to believe something without any actual practical experiment to back it up that I could prove for myself. I could believe other people, that's one avenue you can always take, but if you go out and look for yourself for bendy water, you won't find any. So how the hell can I be on a ball?
Yeah. See, that's the point we were making, you know, when it comes to practicality and people make claims that, you know, for me they have the burden to demonstrate things practically, or else why should I believe it? And should I then believe an image over practical demonstrable physics? I mean, would you say that's rational, logical?
If Socrates is a man,
Right, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah, I see what you mean by, like, you're saying you don't have any tangible evidence of, like, these claims that the Earth is a sphere. But I mean, like, mathematically, like, you know, people have done experiments, so explain this to me. How does the sun work if the Earth is flat? Like, are you saying, do you believe in space? Are we just like a flat piece of crust that's
would it be
floating
okay
around
to say I don't know?
I mean,
and then just say, but still what they're telling me contradicts all known facts, so I don't have to believe that, and I can quite comfortably say I don't have the answers to all the questions you're asking, but I know the bullshit narrative doesn't fit.
If I was to also turn that back on you and I was to say, you know, we get that quite a lot, and I had to go through this on my own because I believed and assumed that the globe Earth was true as well. Right. So I had to dig deep into my rational mind and be intellectually honest with myself. And what you discover is that referencing the sky in no way, shape or form gives you anything measurable about the terra firma that you're actually standing upon. Would you agree with that, or do you think that you can get measurement from looking at the sky in regards to the shape of the Earth?
I mean, you can use the measurements of stars, like, that change when the Earth moves through space.
Well, you know, this is another assumption, is that the Earth moves, and all experimentation that was done previously failed to detect any motion of the Earth whatsoever.
Morley, Aries failure,
Sagnac,
a whole bunch of physical experiments that failed to prove any movement of the Earth at all.
Right.
So I always, you know, say to people,
do you feel yourself spinning in any way? I mean,
yeah,
feel a little bit dizzy.
But we're not accelerating.
No.
But you would still.
Well, you would be, because if you understand the heliocentric model, the sun's travelling at 500,000 miles per hour, and the Earth's spinning on its axis and going around the sun. So as it comes round the back and the sun is moving in front, it has to speed up in order to remain going with the sun. So there is a change in
heliacal as well. There's no closed Kepler orbit, right? It needs to be heliacal. It's an open heliacal orbit if it's going through space, right?
Yeah. No, I definitely appreciate what you're saying. I admit that there is no tangible evidence that one or the other theory is true.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I choose to believe that the Earth is a sphere because to me the reasonings that have been put forth are logical, whereas a lot of the flat Earth theories, treating them as equals, a lot of them are different. A lot of people have different reasons, and a lot of them seem kind of
disingenuous?
No, I wouldn't say disingenuous. I'd say a lot of the people that sort of have jumped on the flat Earth bandwagon, that maybe they don't have a degree in physics or whatnot, a lot of them are just it sometimes reminds me of people
I agree.
It's like a subculture. It's like a trending thing that people like to jump on.
Yeah, so they watch one YouTube video and think, oh yeah, no, this is right, and then they start
proselytizing
everyone out about it. But then when people ask questions, they're like, oh well, this, and they just come back with an answer, and that happens 5 times in a row.
Yeah.
Because they're reacting on impulse, they give different reasons, and that's if you're inconsistent, that there's not.
But that's semantics.
That'd be the kind of thing that puts you off looking further, because that's the thing that puts us off.
Yeah.
We stick to natural science and facts, right, and direct reality, direct realism, to understand where we are. And I can, I see a lot of things in YouTube as well about the flat Earth where they're obviously telling a lot of fucking nonsense, right, or being ego merchants, subculture heroes, right.
Yeah.
Does that put you off looking any further? Like the conversation with us is maybe different?
It's semantics. I mean, the semantics of how people would behave doesn't detract from what the objective facts really are. But I can understand how people can be swayed by that if they come across it. You're meeting these people who are making outlandish claims. They don't have any logical answers or scientific answers for some of the questions that are put to them. So I totally get that. But and if we're talking about science, would you agree that it should never be a closed book?
Oh yeah, no, I don't think it ever will be. I mean, I know cultures and society today completely most people would say, oh no, of course the Earth is a sphere, but then hundreds of years ago people were like, well, of course the Earth is at the centre of the universe, because that's just but okay, I admit something could come along and people are like, oh, maybe the Earth is flat, and then that could become common knowledge. Right. But there is no way to ever really prove anything.
So I know you're saying that, but for me, we can prove things to each other. I can prove things being objectively true. They are substance, they have definite form and shape to them, and dimensions to them, and I can practically show that. So if I was to postulate to you and just offer you these two things, just as Gav mentioned earlier, we understand fluid mechanics. Liquids will always find level. The surface is always horizontal. From one point to the other, if you have a decrease or increase in elevation from one point to the other, the water will flow.
Right.
It's impossible for a body of standing water to conform and display any shape upon its surface because it's formless. Liquids will only take the shape of their container, and that for me is a fundamental observed practical fact of everyday existence. The other fact that I would postulate to you is that in order for me to create pressure, I need a container.
Right.
Now, once I've created that pressure, in order to maintain the pressure in any other medium, I must keep the solid barrier that is containing the pressure within it. But they want to tell me that I'm living in a pressurised environment adjacent to a vacuum with no solid barrier, yet practical physics, substance-based physics, shows me that claim is impossible. So what would you say in regards to those 2 points that I've just made there?
Well, I mean, I definitely take into consideration scale. So, on general scale, say if we're talking about 2 trains moving, we can be like, oh yeah, we'll use Newton's laws. But then they start to break down as we get to really small things, right? Well, it could be this. It's this kind of the same when you get larger.
Yeah.
You can't. All these laws of science, they're just approximations really of what we can see and what we can take from our experiments.
Yeah.
And so, you're saying that, oh well, in my experiment here on Earth, and I can see that the pressure, like if I have a thing of liquid, I need pressure to keep it in that.
No, the liquid itself, the physics of fluid mechanics alone, any liquid has a definite physical behaviour to it, and it has formless. It will only take the shape of the container. The surface will always be horizontal. That, you know, and then if you were to postulate to me, well, scale plays a part, I would then ask you, well, what is it about the physical properties of water that would allow it to, when you increase the scale, to be able to then start to bend and maintain the bend upon the surface of the body of water?
Well, because it's just gravity, really. So in a say like a meter squared vat of water, the difference that the curvature would cause would be so minute that we don't have the technology to be able to measure that distance. But you know, if you're sailing from like across the Atlantic Ocean, well, you can't see America.
Yeah.
So if you keep going along, like you eventually get to America, but you know, how does that work? You know.
Well, for me, it works because your navigation is based on planar geometry. And any body of water, so one landmass to the other landmass, I know that the next landmass is at the same elevation as me because the water in between me and that landmass is level. Right. Although there's forces acting upon it, like wind, currents, there's motion, there's waves, there's swells. You know, the body alone, the body of water from one point to the other must be level. That's demonstrably
like,
true.
On a plane, like level on a plane.
But that's like every single construction you see in this world is built using water levels, right? Every canal that's ever built is, you know, based on that fundamental.
And that's another aspect.
Facts, right?
A canal, you know, you can have a canal stretching 40 miles. They're built knowing the physics of water and that they have to be built level from one point to the other.
Right.
And if you want to increase your elevation, you have to have a lock gate where you lock the boat in and you increase the water level that will rise the boat up to the next level plateau. And even if you look at, you know, a profile view of canals or oceans, you know, it's always the same. The surface is always horizontal.
Right.
And these are fundamental facts that an image on the TV in regards to the globe is contradicting the observed natural world, and for me there's a real issue there with that.
Okay, so your claim is that since you can't like tangibly see that why there would ever be any curvature, you're saying that, well, therefore the Earth must be on a single plane.
No, what I'm saying is, you know, it's the same again. If I'm telling you unicorns are real and you can never observe the unicorn, then there's an issue there. So if they're telling me that the circumference of the Earth that they're claiming is 24,800 miles in circumference, there's a curve calculator that Gav will, you know, testify to.
Miles squared times 8 inches will give you the drop from one point to another.
So I can go to observation points like I've done recently in Largs, and I can view Paddy's milestone at a distance of 40 miles where there should be 800 feet of it missing, and it's not there. You can see the whole thing, and you can see the rock reflecting on the water under it. If I move along a bit, I can then from Ardrossan view Stranraer, which is 49 miles, which should be 1,200 feet of curvature, and I can see the whole thing from top to bottom.
Right.
So there is real world observational points. Sorry, you disagreement? Yeah.
No, it's going on for a while. We thought this would be like 5 minutes.
All right, okay, nah, no problem. I appreciate your time. If you've got stuff to do, just say so. And there's no obligation for you to speak to us.
I'm so sorry.
Aye, no problem.
So maybe an uncomfortable question.
Aye, it is
It's
uncomfortable.
all right, it's just the time.
Aye, no bother, man.
What is the time?
It's hot.
Aye. So thank you for your time. I appreciate you talking to us, man. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Thank you, man. Thank
You
you.
put forward some really interesting things. Like,
I hope so. I hope it's made.
no, I genuinely
reflect
found
a
it
little bit.
interesting. Like, thanks for talking to me.
Aye, nice one. Thanks, guys.
Good time, guys. Yeah.
So, what we've been up to? We've been trying to organise a debate and
come back to Glasgow University, went up to both unions looking to reserve some time there so that we can make a formal event where we can have a reasonable discussion rather than a debate about the shape of the world.
excellent.
So I hope we get some positive replies from the Glasgow Union and from Queen Margaret Union.
And we're here checking out
So the founder of Common Sense Philosophy, Thomas Reid, was a regent. He was a mathematician, a physicist, and not just a minister as well here at the university. I came looking for this guy where he was. Unfortunately, not many people at Glasgow University could answer my question of where and who even Thomas Reid was. But it was actually the janitor of the place that showed us this small memorial place here that tells us about Thomas Reid. So again, a man who questioned beliefs, questioned idealism, all the sceptical philosophies of the 1700s, and I think everybody should have a wee look into and read about.
Definitely. So just to let people know that we're here at Glasgow Uni. As I say, we've spoken to quite a few people today. We've not managed to get it all on film, but we spoke to some aerospace students.
Aerospace students building rockets to go to Mars and things.
Aye, and we had some good conversations with them, and even these guys who are learning these things were open to questioning it, and when we made some points to them, they were, accepting that these things were objectively true, and they're now in a process of having a wee critical look at what they're actually involved in.
Exactly.
Which is fantastic,
One of the things that was just disappointing about it was when we asked if they were actually discussing these things at that fundamental level during their teaching, right?
Yep.
Or during the things, and the answer is more or less no.
Yep.
Even these guys are getting their knowledge from the internet,
Yep.
and they've heard of the flat earth, so they know the discussion, but it's still not being talked about at an academic level in any serious manner, at least.
It's a blasé, that's what really gets you. It's like, everybody's talking about it, and you're like, wow. So even these guys who are, in their training as aerospace engineers, they are hearing about this stuff, which is just a testament to how far it's actually reaching. So for me, it's only a matter of time before it has to be put on the table and actually looked at,
No, I mean, positive is the fact that they've all heard about it. Negative, or still sad, is the fact that it's still not being taken absolutely serious in academic circles. But I think, the fact that we're just talking to these boys, and we've said to them, why don't you ask your teacher a couple of questions, see what he says? I hope we've got them thinking, and that they will actually do that.
They have the balls to actually step up and ask the question.
You said it.
But they'll take confidence from people like us just walking into the place and and seeing how you can have the discussion without us invoking ridiculous claims and nonsensical, illogical claims.
Sticking to natural science, because that's all you need to rebut the absurdities.
Exactly. But
good stuff.
Right, so you've just said that to us. I was just going to ask you what it is you're actually studying.
Physics.
Physics. Could I ask you, have you heard of the question that's being asked now in regards to the shape of the Earth? There's many people who are doubting that we live on a spinning ball, and they're actually postulating that it may be a level plane that we live upon. Have you heard about that?
The flat Earth thing.
You heard of it?
Yes.
Can I ask you what you think of it?
Rubbish.
Rubbish?
Yeah.
What was your source? Can I ask you where you came across it?
I mean, there was a thing they said as well about how they thought that someone asked how they know that Mars isn't also flat, and they said there's pictures of it.
Right.
And there's pictures of the Earth as well.
Do you think that's a red herring to reference the sky to get a measurement of the shape of the Earth?
Yeah, I mean, you don't even have to do that. You can just measure the difference in the shadows.
Eratosthenes type thing. What if that's like the lamppost behind you? If I asked you to go to the other side of that and it was on, would the other shadows be going in the same direction, or would they be going in a different direction?
They'd be going in a different direction.
So if I was to postulate that the sun may well be a local source of illumination, would you entertain that possibility?
No.
You wouldn't?
No.
Can I ask you why?
There's other measurements, other experiments that prove that the sun is the distance away that it is.
So just to make it quick, because I know I don't want to keep you, you've been kind enough to stop. I ask you, you believe you live on a globe. Could I ask you to reference me one scientific measurement that would justify your belief that the Earth is actually a spheroid or an oblate spheroid? An actual substance measurement?
Would the Eratosthenes one not be?
Well, that's based on an assumption. As I say, I can postulate that it's a local light source.
Yeah, but if you combine the different experiments together, then you can put that theory across.
Yeah.
So.
Aye. Quickly, I know, sorry, I don't want to keep you. Have you got time just to answer another quick question?
Yeah.
If I was to ask you, you're working on physics, you know what pressure is, air pressure?
Yeah.
If I was to ask you, could you create pressure for me? Could you tell me what you would require in order to create pressure?
You'd need like a specific temperature and a specific volume, and you'd need like to know what like gas or medium you want as well.
What else would you?
What else would you need?
I mean, I would do it like maybe
If I was
with
to-
a set like box or something that you know the volume
A
of,
box?
and then
So what would
Box,
you?
so what's
How
the
would you
box?
describe
you
the
could-
What's a
box?
box?
well, you could have just like an engine or something like that uses pressure, so you
Yeah,
could just do
yeah.
that.
So you would say that's a container.
Would you say you would need a container to make pressure?
You could either use a container or you could use, like, if you have something massive like the Earth, like the gravitational, like the mass of it would bring like there to be air.
Well,
around it.
that's the point I was going to get to. So I'm trying to
Yeah.
kind of lead you into saying you would need a container in order to create pressure. If I wanted you to give me 2 bars of pressure right now, you would need a sealed container. Would you agree with that?
If it's on a small scale, but if it's on a large scale, you could use.
See, that's my point. How can it be possible to have a vacuum and a positive pressurised system coexist with no solid separation between the two of them?
Yeah. That was answered in my astronomy courses, but I haven't done those for a while.
But you could never practically show that. Would you agree with that?
You might be able to do it like with a simulation.
But no in practicality with the actual substances that you're claiming, you couldn't demonstrate it.
Not currently. You couldn't make
No.
like an Earth and.
Or
do that.
any scale, you could never show how that was possible.
Well, if you were trying to prove it that it would work gravitationally, to physically make it from like step 1 or step 0, to make an Earth, that would be really difficult
Yeah.
at this stage.
So there is no practical reference then to demonstrate that. You would agree with that?
Currently, to build an Earth, it's not. It's not practical.
What is it about scale that would allow it to be possible?
You need there to have.
Gravity?
Yeah, you need the gravity to be strong enough.
Yep.
So.
The theory of gravity again keeps raising its head.
Could you? What's your definition of gravity? Sorry, before we go to the next point, quick.
Sure. It's. It's the effect of something having a mass, and like the effect that has on other things that also has a mass.
So would you then say you would go with the notion that mass attracts mass?
Well, it depends if they're charged or not, and all of these other parameters.
But again, with that, I've never witnessed any mass being attracted to any other mass, apart from I have to, go with the underlying assumption that it's only the Earth that can produce that, and all other objects are attracted to that because that's a larger body. But I can never practically reference it in anything else. Like, I'm larger than you right now. There is no gravitational pull between the two of us right now.
It's incredibly minute that it might as well just be overlooked.
Yeah,
So-
that's kind of convenient for me, that would be the case.
Yeah.
The other aspect, obviously, you understand physics. I'm going to reference fluid mechanics. Sorry, I don't know if that's what you were going to.
Aye, that's.
No, go
what
for
other
it.
one could it be?
Go for it. Go for it.
So I mean, the properties of fluid mechanics basically say that water needs to be contained in its level. If you have a large standing body of water, if it was at all in different elevations, it would start to flow. Yeah, and large standing bodies of water cannot display bendiness or curvature or convexity. Or have you ever seen any bendy water that you could point me to?
Well, I mean the oceans, right?
Well, that's the point of contention, right? Because if you look at the curvature of the Earth and you know that there's a formula, miles squared times 8 inches will show you the drop, then if you see a large standing body of water and it's not flowing away from you, then where's the curve for it to flow away?
I mean, it comes back to gravity again. It's all being attracted.
But do
to
you
the Earth.
think you don't think that there's a... See, in order for somebody to prove to you that something's objectively true, you would require me... If I made a claim to you right now, I always use unicorns, we'll just use that as a nice easy one. In order for me to provide you and for you to believe a unicorn exists, I would have to provide the unicorn. Would you agree with that? You would need the substance.
Touch it.
You would have to actually see it, measure it,
Poke it.
know that it was real.
Kick it.
Well,
Or-
then it gets quite philosophical. Because, like, how do you know that anything's real? How do I know that you're real? I'm just sort of.
Well, I think
maybe.
I think, you know, even when you were born, before you could conceptualise anything or have any conceptions or ideas implanted in you, if I was to drop, you know, a physical object on you, it's going to damage you. So it's not really a philosophical question. It's a matter of
reality,
what's objectively true. You know, the objective world has substance in definite form.
If you say something that's objectively true, that's again like to do with philosophy deep down.
Well,
like physics is just the study of natural philosophy. It's just trying to think of ways to describe things that we think we experience, we think we see.
Yeah. So when somebody thinks that something's true, you know, I have to look for a method of, you know, why they believe that and how they can practically demonstrate in order for me to formulate an understanding or a knowing that these things are actually true. So when we talk about fluid mechanics, our everyday observations and practical application is that fluid finds its level and the surface is always horizontal. 100% of the time. But yet we've got images on the TV screen that are contradicting these fundamental substances and showing us that oceans are bent around the exterior of a potato rock. Well, pretty much that's what it looks like. If you remove the oceans, that's what I call it, a potato rock. You know, I don't mean it to be derogatory, but so for me, you know, it's like I ask people that if I came to you right now and says there's an image of the Loch Ness monster, would you accept that as scientific measurable facts that the Loch Ness monster was true?
Well, no, because it would be the Loch Ness monster, wouldn't it? But if you
so if I came to you with an image from space showing bendy water, and yet your direct reality contradicts that statement, is that not the same problem as me coming with a Loch Ness monster?
Well, in space it's a bit different. Like, it depends where it is in space. If there's some massive object that's pulling something towards it or not.
Yeah.
So if you showed me that picture, I couldn't disprove it straight away. I couldn't prove it straight away. We'd need to.
But does it not contradict your reality? I mean, I'm just very simple question. You know,
well, the reality
they're showing you bendy water.
Earth,
have you ever seen bendy water?
I haven't seen bendy water now.
No. So does that not contradict?
Have you ever seen the Earth as a globe with your own eyes?
Not with my own eyes, no.
No. So it's the same thing as asking you to believe this picture, right?
So, what about if I says to you then, you know, based on what they tell us about the Earth being a globe, there's the circumference being 24,800 miles, there is then a mathematical formula that you can use to calculate the drop, the curvature from one point to the other. Do you understand that? So that the formula is 8 inches per mile squared. So, and based on that, and then going out into the world, then I should be able to make predictions. Well, okay, if I do then say, well, I'm going to try and view something at 40 miles away, I can go and look at the curve calculation for how much curvature there should be and how much should be missing. So based on that, I then take it to the real world and I apply it, and when I apply it, it's missing. It's not there.
You can see everything.
You can see things.
There's nothing hidden behind the curves.
Even further than 40 miles.
Why is that?
I'm just using that as one of my own observations.
What are you calculating it right? Like,
well,
there should be a certain amount.
Yeah, there should be.
Miles squared times 8 inches. You know, if it's 2 miles out, then it's 2 times 2 is 4 times 8 is 32 inches drop. If you're 4 miles out, you know, that's 72 inches, and then 3 miles out, it's 72 inches, which is 6 feet. So if somebody's 3 miles away,
sounds a bit odd.
That's the accepted formula. So if my observations, you know, just mine's alone, if I go to Largs, I don't know if you know Largs on the west coast, you can see Paddy's milestone. It's called Ailsa Rock. From the point in Largs that I videoed that was 39 miles. There should have been 800 feet of curvature there, and it's missing. I move along the road to Ardrossan and view Stranraer, which is 49 miles. There should be 1,200 feet of curvature. It's missing. There's people that I interviewed that live in the Ayr, Largs area, and in certain days, certain conditions, they can see Ireland 100 kilometres away. Now that should be 2 miles beyond the curvature of the supposed sphere Earth. And these observations are showing that there's a contradiction to what they're actually telling us. So, you know, I'm asking people, what do you accept? Do you accept direct, everyday, real observations and experimentation? Or do you ignore those in favour of what you see on a TV screen?
Well, I don't think it's ignoring it.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying you personally are. I wasn't suggesting that you were. That's the dilemma I had at the time. You know, I had a conflict. I believe it's a globe. I see these images, but yet I'm applying what they're telling me to the real world, and the real world's showing me something totally different. So I had an internal conflict that made me doubt what they were telling me was actually real. So, do you think there's an issue there if there should be measurements that should match to what they say, but they're not there? I mean, does that not concern you in any way?
Well, yeah, it is a bit concerning that it's not matching up.
Yeah.
But like a lot of experiments have like come to the conclusion that it is a globe.
Yeah.
So I think that because there's so many experiments that converge on like this idea that it is a globe, then
I can't find any experiments.
If there's one contradiction, then the theory needs to start again. I mean, if you have, even from the scientific method, you know, if you have one massive contradiction against even everything else converging to it, then you have to say that it can't be right.
But if it's only one experiment and then like you're not repeating it.
But we are. I mean, if our direct experience of everybody that's ever lived on this planet has never seen bendy water and can't find the curvature, then surely that's a massive contradiction. It's not just one experiment, right? It's the completive experience of everybody that's ever lived that is contradicting the experiments of a few physicists.
I wouldn't say it's a few.
Well,
you said...
Let's take 100. It still doesn't compare to 7 billion people that can't find the curvature and drink level water, right?
No, but how do you
I'm not
explain...
trying to press you into it. I'm just trying to make my point.
So if I just to press you, because you said it again, you know, that you're invoking that there's a number of experiments that prove that the Earth is a globe. I can't find any. I can't find any.
Those experiments will also include like missions to the moon, missions of putting satellites into space to orbit and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like all of the mathematical calculations.
Like Star Trek, you mean?
Yeah, like well,
science fiction, like Arthur C. Clarke novels. Like
no, there are legitimate satellites in space. Yeah.
There's things up there. I don't disagree with that, but
and have you witnessed these things with your own knowing, or are you just taking it on hearsay?
I've seen the International Space Station go across.
So if you see a light going over your head, is that, you know, you could then assume that matches to the story that they've been telling you?
Well, yeah, they sort of tweet out, "Hey, we're going to be here." So you look up in the sky and they're there.
What if it's a balloon? What if it's some sort of balloon that's been carried by the jet stream?
Well, if it's not what they say it is, and your direct experience is absolutely correct, there's no measurable...
That's the dilemma I had. This is what I'm saying. My dilemma was that, you know, it's such a pool that it's what they're showing me in the TV and in videos, but yet my experimentations and the substances in reality are telling me something different. So that's the point, the awareness that I'm trying to raise with people. Look, for me, people are ignoring direct experimentation observations in favour of sophistry and images that they see on a TV screen, and all we're hoping to do is to hopefully bring this out into the forefront and have an open discussion, an honest discussion about it, and people can lay out exactly what the experiments are, what the facts actually are, the measurements, and see if we can establish that it matches the narrative of what we're being told. Would you say that was fair? Would you be on board for that? You think that's...
Yeah, I think it's good that you're going to like try and compare all the different experiments together and like try and make it a better understanding of what's
excellent. Thanks, man.
So you're in your first, second year, or
third year?
Excellent. I left this place in 1985 with a combined honours degree in maths and physics. So it's not as if we don't know what we're talking about. It's just that 30 years later, I am also questioning the shape of the Earth and what we're being told. So I hope this conversation has maybe made you think a little bit. Maybe look inside what your belief and what you don't have real proof, and maybe you should ask some questions in your next classes.
I could,
do that.
Good.
We just want honest academic discussion.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you very much.
Nice. You've been really,
cheers.
Really kind of your time.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Lovely to meet you.